as parents, we are our kids' first perception of what
Absolutely.
gender roles are. Like when you're fresh out the gate as a baby, like you don't know what gender is. You don't know what that, women are supposed to do something and men are supposed to do something. Like you are taught that type of stuff, usually by your family of origin, also by society at large. But if you grow up and like, just for example, your mom stays home and she does all of the domestic work and you never see your dad doing anything domestic, and your dad goes to work and then he comes home and he just kind of is there and exists, but your mom does the cooking and the cleaning and the shuffling you to school and making sure you have this and that, and your dad's just kind of a bystander or maybe participates sometimes. It's like, well, that's where you're going to get the norm or the idea that, oh, women are supposed to do XYZ and men are supposed to do, ABC.
Yeah. And there's some nuance there.
Yeah, there's
where like
course.
every family is going to look, their structure is going to look different.
Yeah.
There's plenty of families who, it works for them for him to go to work, make a living, for her to stay at home with the kids. There's plenty of families out there where it's the reverse, where she's got the good career and she goes to work and he stays home with the kid. There's more than not people fall in the category, whether it's, husband, wife, or husband, wife, whatever the combination is, right? Where they both have to work.
Yeah.
And so you're working in and sharing that. And I think what you're getting at is saying men engage in the domestic things, because it is true. It's just true that men are not administratively involved in the domestic stuff with their family. I'll give you a great example, guys. Great example here. I do our kids' laundry. I am responsible for their laundry. And let me tell you, that is a big fucking responsibility because every shirt is inside out. Every piece of pants are inside out. Or maybe it has one leg that's right and one that's long. Every sock is somehow just not taken off the correct way. You got to check everything for dirty clothes. You've got to check all the undies and pockets for rocks, sticks, and all kinds of nature.
Yes.
So just as something as like taking a laundry basket of their clothes and putting it into the washing machine is like a 20-minute project, because you've got to just like undo everything.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it there, you're going to do it when you take it out of the dryer. The point is, it's a lot of work. And then you dry it and you're like, oh, it's this pile. It's not that much. An hour later, you have to fold all these little
hundreds of tiny pieces,
articles of clothing.
Yes.
It's a lot of work.
Yes.
And when stuff like that, it's like, it's, maybe for you as a man, it's like, okay, well, I'll take our clothes in the sheets. You take the kids' clothes in their sheets. For me, I do the kids' clothes in their sheets and towels. You take care of our clothes and sheets and towels, right? And so that's something where like we've figured out what works for us in splitting that up. But like I have to be an active participant in that. That can't all just fall on you. You have a job. I have a job. We have jobs. And it's not just your job. I've scheduled them and taken them to the doctor before. And I'll admit, though you're like, damn, he sounds so on point. He's so sexy and handsome. Like, he's the standard.
You're the standard for me.
For you, yes. Thank you all for those compliments. That's very nice of you, by the way.
He's very humble. If you guys hadn't noticed.
But that is something I've had to learn, and I wasn't good at. We've had a lot of arguments and conversations about it, and I've had to have the self-awareness and the black wife glow up. That's a trend right now.
Yeah. It isn't all style, ladies.
It isn't all style. Some of it's character building.
Yes.
To do that stuff. And you've been patient. You've been patient. Have you always been kind? You got your point across in those moments. And the change happened.
I was kind. I haven't always been nice.
Okay.
There is a distinction.
That's super semantical.
It matters.
But the point is,
Yeah.
I've had to realize I got to participate,
Mm-hmm.
right, in more than just like going to work, making money.
Yeah.
Because there is so many hidden things. And there's been a lot of things you've acknowledged, like there's hidden things that I do that you don't necessarily aren't aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the end of the day, I think you've got to understand it is a partnership, which means, and I heard someone explain it this way really well. They said that it's not always 50-50. Sometimes it's going to be 50-50. Sometimes it's going to be 70-30.
Yeah.
You know, it's not all 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. There's give and take. But at the end of the day, you're in it together. You're a partnership. You're doing it together. You're figuring it out together. You're figuring out what works for you, what doesn't. And you just keep figuring it out together.
Yeah. And I think along with men, especially, like, yes, we're beating up on men, but it's kind of necessary to dismantle patriarchy. Like, men have to realize they are both the problem and the solution.
Yes.
But yes, men have to step up. But I also feel like we as parents and as larger parts of society have to understand that, like, just because we do something one way in our household, like let's say you are more traditionally minded and you're a heterosexual family where the mom stays home, the dad works and whatever. Like, that's great if that works for your family, but don't project that expectation on
everyone,
your kids, on everybody else's family. Like, that's when it becomes a huge problem, is the expectation that everybody else should do it that way too.
Yeah, those expectations lead to so many conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
It may be like, I expect my son to act a certain way, to express himself in a very narrow, gendered type of way that in my mind is what I personally perceive as correct. It is not truth, because it is what you perceive. It is what you perceive. And so that's like an expectation that leads to a conflict. In this exact same way, if you grew up with parents who expected you to like give them grandkids by a certain age,
yeah,
you didn't meet that expectation. Now there's a conflict there. Well, where did that come from? It's not because of anything you did or didn't do. It's because they had expectations that, oh, by the time you're, in your 30s, you're going to give me grandkids. You didn't do that. You didn't meet my expectation.
Yeah.
Well, now there's a conflict, and you're left with like, well, I don't get to live my life. I don't get to figure it out.
Yeah.
I've got to like do it based on your standards. And that's the thing with gender is, when it comes to things like clothes, toys, colors, glitter, right? It doesn't have a gender.
No.
It is just the thing that it is. And some people like it. Some people don't. If you do and they don't, and it doesn't harm you, shut the fuck up.
Yes, literally.
Like,
yes,
get over it.
If it's not having to do, like, again, with clothes, and we're going to have a part 2 to this episode to unpack the clothes and objects side of this a lot more in detail. But it's like, if it's not you having to wear a dress as a dude, like some dude over there who has nothing to do with your life, isn't related to you, you don't know them, they don't know you, they're wearing a dress. What does that have to do with your life? Nothing. So why do you need to get upset about it? Why do you need to feel anything about it at all beyond, oh, he's wearing a dress, moving on? Like,
if it doesn't affect you, then no one cares.
Why are you spending your energy on it? Yes. Like, I don't understand that personally, why people will spend their energy on what someone else is wearing.
Yeah. Especially when it is so harmless.
Yes.
As, they want to paint their nails.
Yes.
Who
like,
cares?
what does that have to
They're
do
not
with
my
your
nails.
life? Yes. They're not holding you down and putting nail polish on you.
No, like, I personally don't paint my nails, and I personally don't have a problem with people who do, because they're not my nails. Like, oh well, like, and so, yeah, that the having less expectations of like your kids fitting this or that. We've talked about that a lot on this podcast.
Yes.
Where expectations set us up for more times than not a lot of failure, a lot of conflict with our kids. A lot of disappointment.
Unnecessary disappointment.
Like, there's one thing to have an expectation of like, we want you to be a loving person, a kind person, an accepting person. We want you to be someone that builds others up.
That's a character expectation.
That's character.
Yeah.
being like, well, we don't want you to like express yourself at all in a feminine way as a boy.
You can't wear pink.
That has
You can't play with dolls.
nothing to do with character. And it never changes the person.
No, it never
Just
changes.
Suppresses them.
It never changes. Like, ask any queer person, for example, if their parents disliking that they're queer ever changed them being queer.
We saw an amazing reel a few days ago. I forget who shared it with who, but this guy was talking about how nature is queer.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about...
Oh, I shared it with you.
Yes. He talked about how animals who use camouflage are queer because they have to blend into their environment to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how many queer people have done that?
Yeah.
You know? And so like you can oppress that and they may blend in out of survival, but that's not going to stop them.
Yeah.
Once they get old enough to be out on their own, they're going to be themselves.
Yes.
With or without you as a parent. And that's the thing. I would much rather our kids discover, like I would rather support them and help them discover who they are. Mm-hmm. And through that process, have them know, I love you and I support you.
Yes. And my love is not conditional based on how you perform whatever gender.
Yeah. No. Because that is just performative. That's not unconditional love.
No.
That's a performative love. As long as you meet my expectations or you don't make me uncomfortable, we're okay.
That's a big one. Like, as long as you don't make me uncomfortable. Because I feel like almost all of us have some kind of relative or friend like that where if you step out of the line that they have boxed you into, and I don't mean healthy boundaries, I'm talking about somebody who just doesn't enjoy being challenged on anything whatsoever. Like, the moment you challenge that, you hit that line they've drawn in the sand, then the relationship is at stake.